Hey, everybody.
It's the C-Pad.
It sure is. Welcome back to the C-Pad. I'm John.
I'm Rick.
I'm Ben.
And I'm the C.
And that's right. We're here to celebrate. It's been 2 years since we kind of rebooted our channel, the Legendary Let's Play. And we're not doing the Legendary Let's Play right now because we just finished, Majora's Mask 3D.
Hashtag in Zelda 2015.
Yeah.
Oh, we still got cross-bro-taining to do.
Yeah. It's one of these days. One day. It is coming. It will happen.
One day,
but we still thought it'd be worth celebrating 2 years of our new channel and our franchise play style
Is it a new channel anymore?
Of gaming. Yeah, kind of. So we decided that we were going to make a list of the 10 best Zelda games, at least from our point of view.
Yeah.
Best is a totally subjective thing. Your list probably won't match our list.
Our personal top 10.
Purely opinion.
I wouldn't say we're more qualified than average to comment on this, but we are uniquely qualified because we are, probably the only people who played every Zelda game on the internet.
I mean, we're not the only ones. There's a Zelda charity drive that does similar to the Zeldathon.
We are the best ones.
Yes, we are definitively the best for sure. Best. So we all individually voted, the four of us and Ian and Dustin as well, voted on our all of the games that we've played so far. We're only including the games that we have so far played on the channel.
So no Tingle's fucking wacky fun time or whatever it's called.
And no CDI games.
Yeah.
Tingle's Rosy
Rupee Land.
So what we did, we all voted individually. We're using a system called instant runoff voting. It's a long, complicated thing. The idea is it's based off of how any number of candidates or things you're voting on are performing compared to each other. So it's not just, you got 20% of the first place votes, and that's the most out of anybody, so it's first place. It's all right. You didn't get the majority, then we wipe out a bunch of other ones and we count them again. We'll put a link to it somewhere in the video.
More of Rick's dissertation on this.
Just Google it.
Are you saying there's an average of all of ours at the end?
Something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
So we're gonna, as we go through these, we're gonna talk about the game, and I'm gonna put a little thing on the bottom that shows you how each of us voted for that game, where it came on our list. And we'll talk about it.
So there's 21 games
to scratch my nose. It's awesome.
There's 21 games, and you made us pick our top 10 and our bottom 10, which means that we used 20 out of the 21. So obviously,
optionally 21. If
we should also mention everyone's purgatory game.
Right, that's the thing. Is any intelligent viewer can figure out where the last game goes in all of our voting.
So without further ado, the 10th best Zelda game that we have played so far is The Adventure of Link on the NES.
The Adventure of
Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. This is the group one. This is the group one.
Oh, yeah, we all got together to talk about CJ's choices as a group.
Yeah.
What CJ picks is not going to be...
Yeah, right. I put this one kind of low. I actually put it on my worst list. It's not that it's a bad game. It's just that it's less good than at least 10 others to me.
I don't know if you guys remember while you were recording it, that was one of the first ones I missed most of.
Yeah, you went to a concert.
To see 9 Inch Nails in New York.
And me and CJ played the second half of that game in one sitting.
That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We got to do that more often, just me and you. Yeah. Nobody else.
I did not play that game.
He wasn't around.
Yeah. Okay. I did not play that game with you guys. I wasn't on the D-pad yet. But I have seen the game played in its entirety in speedruns and a couple of Let's Plays.
Blocking brains.
It was a very unique game and did a lot of pioneering in the genre, I think. And I got to give it credit for that. I actually put it in it's 12th.
We have cheat sheets. Each of us has our own voting thing, and I have the master list.
It was in my bottom 10, but high up on my bottom 10.
Yeah, same. I think
it was my number 10 bottom.
Are we going around now and saying where we
it's
put
it?
At
the bottom.
How are we doing this?
It's actually showing up on the screen.
Yeah, it's
there it is, and now it's gone. You missed it.
Well, no, so that's the number 10. But are we gonna say where it is on our list, or are we?
Sure. Yeah, we just kind of did.
Just kind of doing it informally. There's no ritual structure.
I just got to give it credit for trying new things, even though it gets a lot of crap from people.
It was a good game, but
it's low on my list only because as a Zelda game, it struggles.
It feels like another game that was like, let's make it Zelda.
I put it at number 6 on my best.
So I think you were the one who brought it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of fun playing that. I think it was a novel game. It was definitely a novel game at the time because no other games were cool. I mean, I guess Castlevania, I don't know if that was before or after.
I know it is. I'm going to bring it down in another second.
Did Castlevania come out before or after Adventure of Link?
Before, I think.
I don't remember.
Okay,
Dustin also put it pretty high. He put it as his number 4.
Maybe it's not the first game of its kind to be like a side-scroller sword game, but it was definitely, interesting and unique for Zelda.
Xbox, pause.
As we all know.
God damn it, Xbox.
Xbox.
Grab the controller.
Please pause.
There we go. We're good. All right.
All right.
Jesus Christ.
Off to a rape start.
Yeah. Why don't we move on? Let's
move
move on to
number
number
10.
9. All right.
I mean, number 9.
Our number 9 best is Hyrule Warriors.
That's
for
also
the Wii U.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Hyrule Warriors. Now this one was interesting. I put notes on here to specifically talk about Dustin, Ben, and Ian. You guys' votes. Yeah, you guys.
I put it low.
You put it real low. Dustin and Ian both put it very high, like top 5. I think mine was in the middle somewhere.
I actually had it at 7.
Yeah.
I feel like
I think
it's
mine
a
was in that
really
kinda-
difficult game to place because it's so different.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
different from all the other ones.
I
The
put
same
second
reason
to
as me
last.
for.
I looked at it this
Yeah.
way. I've been more
No, I
addicted to
didn't.
that game than I have
You
been to any other game
Oh, no,
in
you
a
didn't.
long time.
Yeah.
It came out. When did it come out? Last September.
Last
maybe?
year, yeah.
Yeah.
I probably
no,
got
it came
it.
out this year. No, you're right. Yeah, last year.
It came
Sorry.
out like maybe last September. I got it maybe a couple months later, but like I haven't beaten it yet. I'm still determined to
Can
100%
you beat it?
the
There's
game.
so
The
much
thing
there.
I didn't get was I watched you guys all get addicted to it. I'm like, it's the same shit.
That's
That's what addiction is, John.
No, like I get addicted to Dark Souls because it challenges me and I lose and I have to learn and try again. That is
Yeah.
literally just like more dudes, more A button. Always.
You've literally just described both games with the same set of sentences.
It's like addiction to
I don't
sex.
think so. I think it's
yeah. How is
It's
that
the
any
same
different?
thing all the
I told you
time.
to leave
but
that
you're
off
still
the
gonna go
D-pad.
back and do it more.
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors. You
Okay.
lose, you train, you learn more, and you come back and
that
fight
game
again.
struck. I don't know. There's
It's
something
fun,
about that game
and
that felt
and
super
they're
repetitive.
releasing more DLC.
Yeah, Hyrule
soon.
Warriors,
We're gonna be able to play as Tetra. We're gonna be able to play
Legends?
as Ben.
Yeah, Ben is finally gonna be playable. We made the joke,
What?
and now it's happening. The King
What?
Red Lions is gonna be in the
Well,
in the
no,
3DS version.
King Hyrule.
What?
Yeah, King Hyrule.
King Hyrule,
He's not-
who turns into
He
a
can-
boat.
Yeah, one of his
That-
one of his powers is turning into the.
Fucking amazing.
Is
I
it?
can't
Is
wait
it
to
like
see that.
Wind Waker style?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
Well, just they are.
yeah.
Oh,
Th- I
It's
mean,
gonna be like Smash Brothers, how they
it's
do
not
Team
a
Link.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not totally Wind Waker style, but it's
But close enough.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's gonna get its own story, which is cool. We'll definitely have to
And-
play that
well,
one
yeah,
on there
so
as
they
well.
promised Tetra, they promised the King, and I think they
Coral.
said maybe a few more characters. So still fingers crossed for Skull Kid, everyone.
Yeah.
Coral.
And fingers crossed for Coral.
Yeah.
He gets to come back.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Okay.
right.
Our number 8. Now, this one I'm sure is gonna be subject to some controversy here. Our number 8 is Majora's Mask. on the N64. And the
Everyone
reason it
looked
might
at
be
where I
controversial
placed it.
because if you haven't seen on the bottom of the screen just yet, someone's got some splaining to do.
I fucking hate Majora's Mask so much.
So
like,
we made Ben watch it, and he hated every second of it. And then we made him watch it again.
Yeah.
for the sake of these guys, Ben placed it tied for his worst.
yeah, tied with Majora's Mask 3D.
Yeah. No.
So,
Awesome.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I just for whatever reason, besides the moment with Goat, which is
That
amazing.
one time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just I felt like every time that game was being played, which I didn't play it at all, but every time it was being played, people were miserable and angry
I was thinking about it-
and like yelling at each other and tired.
I don't
and
think
like,
that had anything to do with the game.
I think
though.
that's
maybe
more
not,
to
but
do
that
with-
was just the feeling that I got.
Weren't we
from
filming
like,
it in like a freezing studio?
Yeah, it
Yes.
was just terrible.
It
We were
was-
all
we were
miserable.
literally-
we were all tired.
We were in a room that was like maybe 40 degrees.
Yeah.
It
So
was
maybe-
actually
we were using a
fucking
controller
bad.
that it wasn't designed for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 times over, though, we were using the classic controller,
Yeah.
which is meant to be like a Super NES controller, on the Virtual Console version, which had the things in the wrong place,
Yeah.
aimed at a GameCube controller. I realized that's why I didn't like it, because I just never felt comfortable
and then
with it.
somehow you felt that the 3D version had worse controls.
Yeah, and that says something.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know.
I don't think
Try-
the controls are anywhere. I think
fucking-
the controls are fine.
You
I think
eventually took the time and wrapped your head around swimming, kind of, and I was just like, fuck you.
a
game.
little bit. It's
you.
it's not as
And the
simple as it
3DS
should have
version,
been.
well, I guess we can't talk about that version yet.
Yeah,
but
it's a separate.
We'll
Anyway,
get there.
I love the
It-
art
it-
direction,
brought
and
it
It's
up.
coming.
I remember loving it as a kid. That's why it got anything out of me. Because
Ben, weren't you really excited to play it before we started playing it?
I was because so all right. I don't want to talk about Ocarina too much, but that was the first game I ever owned myself, and I played the shit out of it. And I never got to play Majora's Mask. I never bought it, so I really wanted to see what it was all about because it like a lot of people really like it. It's rated pretty highly on a lot of websites, and I just couldn't.
the thing that I don't
couldn't.
get is the 3DS version is also still rated very highly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
That, like, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up!
I mean, we're also looking at it through nostalgia goggles.
Also, most people aren't Let's Playing them with.
That's also true. The
that's
format,
a good point. I bet
our Let's Play
changes
format does cause some problems.
It's way more stressful when your friends are yelling at you about how to play a game with a controller you're not comfortable with in front of the internet than it would be just playing around after school one day.
Yeah.
Huh. Next game.
All right. Moving on. Our number 7 best Zelda game that we have played is Ocarina of Time on the N64. This is probably the only one that kind of surprised me on the list, just because, like, I know that
you expected to be higher.
Like, I didn't even really vote it that high. I put it as number 5.
I had it at 4.
Yeah,
I had it as number 11.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
my Phantom game.
Yeah,
they were tied for like my least on the top list.
Yeah.
It had to have a spot, but I didn't want to, so I begrudgingly made it 10.
I tried to treat this list as objectively as possible, but I got to admit I hit that hard with nostalgia because as I said before, the 64 was my first system. Ocarina of Time was my first game that I ever owned, and I played so much of it. I would just sit down on a weekend and start a new file and play the game till the end in that day, and I did that several weekends.
Wow.
So,
ladies,
I played that game so much, and I loved it so much. So
you tell that story, and I get a little sad. You're like, it's like my first shirt I ever owned because my parents died in a car accident, and gave me a shirt on my 12th birthday. Like, it just sounds like a solemn.
But I have to admit, the game is not perfect, even though it was reviewed as almost perfect game at the time.
Famitsu, I think, gave it a perfect 40.
It gets less perfect as time goes by.
I don't think it holds up. See, I think Twilight I rated it number 11 under other games such as Twilight Princess, which I think improved on the formula.
I agree.
Skyward Sword beat it by 1 point on my list, but only because
those two
it's
were
completely innovative, although Skyward Sword feels largely incomplete, but we can get to that.
Yeah.
And Majora's Mask, I think, is better because I think it did Ocarina of Time, but just as a more complete game.
I think you're
which
forgetting.
I know Ben's going to argue with me with because he hates Majora's Mask. But in my personal opinion, Majora's Mask is the superior game.
I will admit it's difficult for me to be perfectly objective on those games because of the circumstances.
Right.
So,
I think it's a taste thing with Ocarina and Majora as well, because you have Ocarina, which is a huge, well, not huge, but back then, huge, sprawling sort of game. There's a lot of places to explore, tons of things to go and do, and they're all very separate. Whereas Majora's Mask is very insular. It's very everything is really tightly wound in a smaller space. You only have 4 dungeons, but they're bigger dungeons and more intricate dungeons. And there's things you can do at certain times in certain places. So it's a lot. It's the same kind of amount of content, just pushed into a smaller space.
Especially for the time, Ocarina was really impressive. The world was big, the combat looked good, but one thing they forgot was fun.
And Ocarina?
I really think there's very little fun in Ocarina, especially looking back now that we've seen what we've seen. Compared to Wind Waker. Wind Waker's just like happy, fun barrel of laughs the whole time.
Wind Waker, I mean, the HD version didn't miss a beat. It felt as good as the original, whereas Ocarina 3D, I played when it came out. There's a picture of me on Facebook from the day before our first podcast went out 4 years ago of me holding my brand new 3DS, and I got Ocarina of Time to go with it, and I played it, and instantly my brain went, oh god, there's weirdness to this, and it does one of those things where you kind of think hard about it, and you're like, was the original that good to begin with?
Well,
it's a remake that's this. It's mostly a paint job.
Rick, I'm gonna tell you a story. When I was in college, I frequented a place known as the Hong Kong, and it was
that's
perfect
a place on Earth.
It was it was a Chinese restaurant. It was the perfect late night divey Chinese restaurant.
There's a lot of Hong Kongs.
And then
I'm pretty sure that's a chain restaurant.
Or they're just a lot of unoriginal naming. Anyway, it was that place, and I loved it. And then they remodeled it, and everything was just a little off. And that's what
it's like Rosebud
3DS is.
I was gonna say,
everything was a lot off.
That's different, but
that's just 2 different places. But so it kind of feels like that though, like a place you're really comfortable and familiar with, and then you don't come back for a while, and then you come back, and everything's just a little wrong.
It's like second grade.
It's like the D-pad.
Yeah.
Second grade.
The third time through second grade was weird.
Dustin's not here. We can't.
Whoa.
You shall not be named.
He's off doing something. I don't
Cooking
know.
stuff.
Something like that. But yeah, no, Ocarina, like I feel like it deserves a place in the top 10.
Yeah.
Or at least in the top area.
Yes.
But it's aging, and it's only now in the last few years that the age is starting to really show. And it's not that it's bad. It's never really been bad. It's just been outshone by all of its successors.
I put it as 11 because I feel like that is the Zelda game to base every other game off of. So that's in the middle. Every other game is either better or worse.
It is the metric.
That's a really good point.
Oh, man, CJ, you're so
really
smart.
Good point.
That's pretty good.
I hate it when CJ is smart.
Oh, God.
All right,
it's
next.
the C-pad.
All right. Number 6 is the original Legend of Zelda on the NES.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. I will admit.
I think in a weird way
what
that's
number is
also the one to compare all the others to, though.
That's true.
Yeah, which is, I mean, similar to how Siege put his as number 11. This is my number 12, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually my number 10. Well, you guys all see it, but it's my number 10 in the top 10 because I felt it was, central to the series, first of all, but like that's what you compare every other game to, the first game. So
if you're ever going to get someone into The Legend of Zelda and you want them to kind of understand sort of the whole thing, like if they're just kind of playing one game, it's whatever, they can grab whatever, but if you want to get them kind of into the whole series, I feel like Ocarina and The Legend of Zelda and A Link to the Past are sort of the three that they really need to play.
Well, I think our whole system is flawed. We really should have broken it up into 2D games and 3D games.
You're right. Cut.
No, but it's like apples and oranges. Like they're good experiences, but they don't. And there's there's a hook shot in both games, I guess. But like they don't feel in any way the same.
There's not a hook shot in the original Legend of Zelda.
I'm not sure I necessarily buy that. I feel like the 2D games are a little quicker in terms of how the game progresses, but other than that, the feel is still fairly consistent.
What number is this?
I think the tone is fairly consistent. The feel is totally different.
In its formula approach, where you get a key, go to a dungeon, get a key from that dungeon, go to the next dungeon type of thing, they're all very similar in that way, but they take different approaches of doing that. Like,
what I like
topic for a different video.
Yeah,
I think
that's a whole thing to.
I think the handheld games are starting to. The handheld games are starting to catch up, though. You've got like A Link Between Worlds started to give you a bit more of a three-dimensional.
But that's starting to feel even newer. But it doesn't feel more like Twilight Princess. It feels like it's becoming its own thing.
I put The Legend of Zelda original at my number 2. Because there's no bullshit there. It's just a game.
That's true. I like
Sell the game, get into the game, play the game. They put a Master Quest in.
They did put a Master Quest in,
which back then
that was unheard of.
That was unheard of.
Yeah. They literally like in a similar stroke to how Gold and Silver got the entire Kanto put in there the last second. They basically went, we've got half the cart left. Let's
use that
do it again.
Cart. My one complaint about it is that the difficulty curve.
Oh my God!
Is just I mean. By the third dungeon, it kind of levels out, and you can play the rest of the game.
I want to say
the first 2 or 3 dungeons with only 3 hearts, and you don't know what the hell you're doing. It's really fucking hard.
And then I think level 6, when we played it on the channel, suddenly we just hit a brick wall.
Yeah, that was probably just us.
Yeah,
but I do think the game. I mean, Adventure of Link also was really difficult at the beginning, and then once you got a little bit of momentum, it became easier.
I'm surprised how quick we beat the final castle in that one.
How you beat the final castle by running for your life and not fighting anything?
That place is valid. It's a totally valid strategy.
Like, what would you do if you, CJ, were actually in that castle?
Oh, I would.
You would run for your fucking life.
I would die fighting.
I think we did it in 2 episodes. The final thing, like we got all the way to the end, died in the final boss, and then one episode.
That was 20 episodes, right?
It was 30 episodes altogether.
That was 30?
Yeah, I think 29 was us getting there and making it to Dark Link, and then 30 was us going through it again and actually winning.
But old game, pretty hard, pretty good.
I think the only negative that I would have to say about The Legend of Zelda, the original, is just the aimlessness. And I know that the sandbox nature was the whole driving point, but if you dropped on a map and they just go,
yeah,
it's just a
little. And the original translation didn't really help.
True, but they did that with Mario.
Get 8 pieces. Triforce.
In Mario, they just drop you on a map and they say go. But
there's like paths to take.
Well, you can't go left, basically. So
yeah. I mean, there's nothing major wrong with it. That's just my one gripe, and that's the limitations of the time.
It's a legitimate.
All right,
gripe.
so
it's legit.
Yeah. The number 5.
Number 5.
This one's interesting, and we'll have to talk about this one on its own later. But our number 5 is A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS.
All right. Yep.
Boo.
It's interesting to me that this places higher than it. Like, it's not unexpected. I voted it pretty high.
I put it at.
Who voted
3?
Who voted for that fucking game?
Did you not like that game?
I put it low
Not
on my top
really.
list, but I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
My
that
rationale
game,
was I loved A Link to the Past, and that's the closest they've gotten to A Link to the Past.
Why don't you just vote for A Link to the Past?
Well, maybe I did. Spoilers.
Dun dun dun.
I felt that game just revitalized the series, breathed new life into Legend of Zelda. I absolutely loved it.
I didn't necessarily agree with all the risks they took, but I was so glad they were taking those risks.
Yeah, just doing something a little bit different, and
it's the first really open world Zelda we've had since the original.
Being able to go to any dungeon at any point, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why did you not like it?
I'd rather just play Link to the Past.
Well, I mean, yeah, me too.
I mean, that's valid. That's
really
a
my
fair-
only thing.
But why
I mean,
not
you
have
guys
two
actually
really
brought up
good games that are?
Well, you guys
kinda
brought up good
similar?
points that I didn't really think about. I do like you can go to any dungeon in any order vibe, but also you can just farm for rupees at the very beginning of the game
and just
buy
get
everything,
all the shit,
and then there's no
war,
challenge.
Man,
Yeah,
And also,
I mean, you
all
still
the-
are limited to what item. Well, I guess you can. Switch
if you
out,
farm them, then
so,
you can just get.
yeah.
all the
you can buy
puzzles
them.
are not puzzles, but all the landscapes and even bosses are pulled directly from A Link to the Past.
Yeah, that felt weird to me.
I feel like there wasn't enough.
It was
new.
real weird.
There was
Yeah.
there was definitely more than enough new in the gameplay style of it, but as far as story and just
I mean,
it really bugged me how Low Rule was blatantly just Dark World, and there was no story reason for it.
I mean, on the production side, it did start as a remake of A Link to the Past, and then they were like, well.
But
why not just
call
make a
it
new
Dark
game?
World. Don't fucking call it some other new thing. And then
it was very strange.
Shoehorn, what's her name, Hilda into it. And it was
Hilda.
just weird.
Call it something different for the sake of it being called something different. Why even?
It was that was kind of weird.
Zarina Mulva.
I also as much as I dug the open-er world, it's really the most open one that we've had ever. But
also no new items. Although you
no,
can
there were
get
some
the
new items. The little wind, the tornado rod was new.
Okay, yeah, there was. You're right. There was a tornado rod and an earth rod, but I think that was it.
Wasn't it
I
a
think those might have been
helicopter
it.
plant thing?
That was the tornado rod.
Okay,
It
all right.
flings you up into the air.
They also weren't very useful. They were good for puzzles, but you couldn't really fight people with them.
Yeah,
the puzzles in that game were really good.
The puzzles were pretty good.
They
thought
were on point.
The wall crawling felt very natural right from the get-go. I thought.
Sidling?
The little warp into the wall and walking around on
I
that.
always-
I
sidling.
always found that kind of gimmicky a little.
It
I was
fit-
like,
I
it was
mean-
cool for a minute, but the whole game based around it, not that it was,
didn't
I
mind
guess,
it.
but
I wouldn't say the whole
I
thing.
mean,
The
it was only as bad as warping between the light and dark worlds and
yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Link to the Past.
The most negative thing that I can say about it, as much as I loved the openness of it, the downside is we got a very just skeletal story to go with it. You basically got story at the beginning and story at the end and nothing.
Yeah,
but
they
what I
really
was
just put
saying.
in just enough story to piss me off that it was not
It's
Dark
like,
World.
I didn't
almost
care
no
about
story,
Yuga.
and yeah,
You know,
Oh, I
Yuga-
forgot. I literally
I've
forgot
cared
about
way
Yuga's
more
awful.
about Zant or Girahim than Yuga.
I was really upset that Yuga takes over Ganon, because it's just sort of like Ganon is not. Ganon has literally never once been
So
anyone
who is
else's
this
puppet.
guy?
right.
And
I mean,
suddenly
he's
just
better
some-
than Malladus or
Just an off-brand Kefka comes in and goes "Oh, you're mine now. I'm wearing
Bellum.
your skin."
Yeah, I understand that completely. But
Discount
the game,
Kefka.
the
Yeah.
gameplay for me outweighed that.
Kefka is
so.
the best.
Yeah, it was.
boss for a Final Fantasy game ever. He's the best boss in any video game ever. I
It's
hate
true.
all the people who say that Kefka is a joke villain because he's too one-dimensional.
Kefka's the-
He's
Kef-
supposed to be one-dimensional.
Kefka is
He's fucking
Final
nuts.
Fantasy VI is the best game ever.
It is the best Zelda game.
It's actually number one on the Zelda list. Spoilers.
I will say, Kefka is the only Final Fantasy is one of the only Final Fantasy villains that is not blatantly being manipulated by some outside force.
True, and he becomes a god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
He destroys the world and becomes God.
Hey, we haven't played that on the channel yet.
That's true. It has been out for like
Spoilers.
20 years plus, but
Yeah.
still, spoilers. So watch out.
All right, let's move
Let's
on.
keep talking about Final Fantasy
Yeah.
VI. I'm fired up now.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
All
Our
right,
number
all right.
4 is
All right,
Twilight
Dad.
Princess on the GameCube /Wii.
Okay. Wow. You guys rated that pretty high then. I had it at
Yeah.
7.
I rated
is
it
mine
I
where
thought that was high.
I rated it where my initial instinct to put Ocarina was, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, same actually. At the
You know what I
last
mean?
second, I
yeah,
swapped
it's like,
them.
no, wait, it's better in every way.
Yeah.
It really I've used this on the channel before. This description, it's Twilight Princess is to Ocarina as Mario Sunshine is to Mario 64. It's the same formula, updated, cleaned up, and tightened, and just it feels much more.
And
like-
with a
like
strange
thing.
robot water gun on your back.
Yeah.
Just had all those
I
elements.
hated that dungeon.
I don't know. I think Twilight Princess was huge for one. It felt really giant. I remember feeling really overwhelmed when I played it back in 2008. When did the Wii come out?
Yeah, sure.
Not that far back.
2007, I think.
Somewhere around there.
I remember being in college and regretting not having enough time to play it. I think it was 2006.
Yeah, it would have been
2006.
2006 because I remember it was a sophomore year. I was in my brand new dorm and I bought that. I got the first.
It doesn't matter.
Fall 2006.
I got the first Wii in Worcester. I was happy about that.
You got the first Worcester Wii, huh?
I did, first Worcester Wii. But yeah, no, it's a huge game. Tons of really nicely laid out dungeons. The story felt awesome.
Yep.
It connected in a meaningful way, not only to Majora's Mask and with some little stuff with the hero shade, but also it was the first game that we had that explicitly referred to the fact that we had two separate timelines.
Yeah.
Wind Waker continued on in the adult timeline, but this was the first one that actually said, like, no, the story that you got in the end of Ocarina of Time is its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I don't think they were certain yet during Wind Waker. It wasn't until Twilight. They were like, all right, we're definitely doing.
We're definitely taking it
We're
back.
fucked now, so
yeah.
I loved the art direction. It's dark and the squares.
Yeah, the squares. Yeah,
do you know what I'm talking about? They're really
the
cool.
Twilight magic was a really nice touch because it's offsetting, and it's during a time the GameCube was all about roundness.
I mean,
everything was round.
It had a digital feel in like a natural world.
It was all cel shaded. Well, because it was
so
extra contrasty, artificial, weird
elements of Wind Waker and threw them into an Ocarina of Time environment.
The explosions were actually built off the same engine from Wind Waker, so you can kind of get it's actually it is the same engine as a whole, but they tweaked it a bunch. The explosions, I think, are the closest you get to Wind Waker.
If anyone wanted to have a downside, I mean, obviously it's very similar to Ocarina of Time story-wise and gameplay-wise.
And aesthetic-wise.
But I think it's Ocarina of Time done the way that they wanted to do Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
So I can't fault them for that.
The only down I can think of is nowadays it just kind of looks brown. But that was the style of the time, and we still have remnants of that in other games. But
I mean, you're going
it's
for a more
brown.
realistic, gritty look than that's
Earth
going to
tones,
happen.
not
I
brown.
think. You know?
Those moments of like black, purple, and green would
they
stand
do.
out for me.
That's true.
The whole game as a whole is probably
you-
brown, but those moments
Getting
are
you
like,
comfortable with that. Sorry, I got a timer down here now to keep an eye. Keeping the brown kind of earth tones of it, and then having the jarring like bright blue and green and reds.
like our
does
Pokemon
sort
fan
of-
game, Pokemon Brown.
Yeah. It is a nice touch. I think it really accents it
That's
well.
when you play. That's like the culmination of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow.
You just put them all together. It's brown.
Just like a sad Pikachu follows you around half-heartedly.
Yeah. Let's see. So our number 3. This one's interesting. For 5 of the 6 of us, this was in our top 5, and then someone went and voted it as their 9th worst, and that is Link's Awakening DX.
What? 9th worst?
Who had it in
The
Is that
9th
just an
worst.
error?
No.
Yeah, you got to look at that. Who
That one belongs to
Is CJ
Ian.
just bitter?
Ian
put no. I think Siege was that your number 1.
That was my number 1.
Yeah.
Of
I'd
course it
rather
was.
believe that Ian just like can't count than that he actually
No,
believes that.
he put
I'd
Link's
rather
Awakening
believe
DX as
he
his 9th
can't
worst.
count.
Has Ian played that game?
I don't know.
He wasn't around when I
guess I
recorded
didn't
it.
really ask him,
He
but
wasn't here for the speed run.
Alright.
so Link's Awakening.
John is texting.
Link's
Ian
Awakening.
right now.
For
God
me,
damn it, Ian, you fucking asshole.
for me anyway, Link's
him on
Awakening is my
FaceTime.
number 1 handheld game.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
I pushed as hard as I could to not make him nostalgic just because I have so many memories of playing that game on the original Game Boy. Admittedly, if Link's Awakening was on this list and Link's Awakening DX, I think I would put Link's Awakening higher.
Just because it was the first.
Kinda, yeah.
So I talked a lot about, or not a lot, but I talked about how Ocarina of Time was the first game that I owned.
Mm-hmm.
Link's Awakening
Is the
was
first
the first
game
game
that I
that I
stole.
ever played.
Oh,
Nice.
really?
Yeah, the first game I ever played. I borrowed a Game
That's a
Boy
good
from my
first
friend
game.
with Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening. It was the first game I ever played.
Wow.
And it holds a very special, dear place in my heart.
And in contrast to the Legend of Zelda, the whole like openness, no direction, Link's Awakening is quite good at making sure you have at least some guidance.
The
at
only
each
thing
point.
about Link's Awakening that's
right in my chest.
absolutely frustrated me to no end is in Dungeon 2, there's a room where you have to kill 3 enemies in the correct
And you
order.
can never remember what it is.
Pulse Voice, Stalfos, and
And
Keith.
a gel? Oh,
It was the first game I ever fucking played. I didn't know what the fuck those were. I didn't have the manual. I borrowed it from someone. I was like, "What?
There was no internet
what
back
is
then.
this shit?"
It's funny too. I
Yeah.
think
It was like the 70s.
I think
It
when we
took
did
me
the Let's Play
forever.
of it, I think when we did the Let's Play of it, we just guessed and got it
Yeah.
right. Like,
For me, it was really seeing the game done at our breakneck pace that really made it come together for me.
For me, I remember. Okay, so I got a Nintendo 64, I think, for my birthday, and
Yeah.
then a few months later, was it late summer or fall that Ocarina of Time came out? And let's just say, yeah,
I got it for
I got that
Christmas,
game,
so it must have been
and I was playing it,
around then.
and it was difficult because I didn't really get RPGs. And, like I had only played platformers, so I was playing Ocarina of Time. Oh, I was having fun with it, but taking it slow. And then for Christmas, my mom got me a Game Boy and Link's Awakening, and I liked that game instantly way better than Ocarina of Time. And I felt bad because I was like, everyone's talking about Ocarina of Time, but I really like this old Zelda game that I've never heard of before.
It wasn't even that old. It was the one that came out immediately before Ocarina.
Right, so it was probably
love
2
that
years old at
story.
that point.
That's such a good story.
It is a good story.
Also,
Little baby
I
CJ.
remember the Poles voice, the Keys, and the Stalfos.
Mm-hmm.
I had to borrow not a player's guide, but it was like a Game Hints magazine
Yeah.
Oh, nice,
from my
okay.
friend at school because there
Back
was no
when
internet.
Back when they just sold
Yeah.
a book of like 58 games.
It was
in
like
there.
it was like a slim, like it looked like one of those brain teaser books,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
and it had like a bunch of different games. I think they were all Nintendo. They might have been SNES
Probably,
or
yeah.
Game Boy.
Probably, yeah.
And it just had like hints or like passwords for all the games. And like Link's Awakening, all it had was like, you might be stuck in the second dungeon.
Oh, that's right. There is a point you
I
can
was
just
like, I
lose
am.
the game. I want to say Eagles Tower. In the original, I think DX fixed it, but there's a point where if you do it wrong, you can literally just be stuck and never be able to beat
Oh,
it.
wow.
I have heard about that. Yeah,
I think you drop the iron ball in a weird spot and then you're just fucked.
Well,
have
if
to
you save it after you
kinda-
drop it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And honestly, if you drop it that way, you might not know that you're fucked and just go, oh, I got to come back to this later. And
Well, that
then
never happened to
that's
me.
it.
I voted it really high, but that's actually one of the only ones that I've never actually sat down and completed myself. Actually, that's a lie. There's tons of them like that. Never mind. Gotta
Yeah,
go.
I put it at number
You
one.
should complete it
because
though. You should
yes.
just play it.
everyone
start
knows
to
it's my
finish.
favorite game. I wouldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah,
I did our best speed run that we've ever done at that game.
Yeah.
that's true.
This is true.
I'll do it again and I'll beat our record.
Yeah,
That's true.
I hope.
Yeah.
you just gotta practice.
No, we're gonna do another-
Once you
it's
do
gonna be
it
another
multiple times,
speedrun
you get
race.
Oh
It's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
versus you.
Rick and I
gonna
challenge
happen.
each other over YouTube to a race for
Yeah.
that, and I'm totally willing to do it. So if enough fans want it, that'll happen.
Yeah. The
Sweet.
I would say for this game, I think what really makes Link's Awakening, it's a very sort of dreamlike game. The music fits that mood really well. The animals sort of weirdly fit that. The characters are all sort of very passive. Everyone's just sort of, it's as if everyone is kind of asleep.
And they're all just like weird echoes of characters from previous games, mostly Link to the Past at this point.
Right.
Maybe a little bit Adventure of Link. But it's just so weird how it just goes from lighthearted to dark.
Instant, and literally,
Like-
it's the Southern Face Shrine.
Yeah.
You go and you fight a mini boss. Everything's kind of whatever, and then suddenly you see a plaque that basically says, "The world is a lie. The windfish is dreaming. You need to save it. It's
I was
dying."
probably
And you're just
10
like,
years old,
"Whoa."
playing it in bed late at night on my Game Boy with my lamp overhead, so my parents won't catch me up that late. And I just get to the face shrine, and they're like, "Everything you know is a lie. The whole world will." And I'm like, "What? This is a Zelda game.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for this."
Probably not a surprise then that Link's Awakening was inspired by Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah.
What? I don't think I remember that.
Whoa,
I
really?
feel like
Oh,
we
yeah.
mentioned
we
it,
talked
but-
about it.
We
a
did
little
mention
bit.
it when we did the thing, but yeah, no, Twin
Oh,
Peaks
right.
was a very large inspiration that probably explains
That's awesome.
a lot. And I it's also the first game to allow you to swap out both your A and B buttons
Yeah, which is a
and
cool
allow you to
feature.
use two weapons at the same
I
time,
think there's
like
only
doing a
3
long
that do
jump.
that though,
Which
right?
is
There's
absolutely
only
necessary.
that
There's only
the
3
oracles.
before that.
Yeah.
Oh no. I think Minish Cap does it.
So 4.
So far?
Yeah, I guess so. So far, anyway. There might be more that were missing.
Maybe
on there,
the
I'm,
the games that I blocked out of my memory.
Possibly,
which we'll
yeah.
get to.
I'm absolutely in love with the concept of the windfish.
Mhm.
Like one of my favorite NPC type of characters in any game ever.
I would like to see it return in
Its
an official
design,
capacity.
I
its
still think he's
design
Jabu
was
Jabu.
just amazing,
Me too.
and the music in that game
And Jabu.
was top notch.
Ballad of the Windfish is easily a top 5
Like-
Zelda theme for me.
Yeah, like one of my favorite game soundtracks. Yeah. Oh man.
Is that Mambo's Mambo or is that the other one?
Was,
I don't know. You
perfect
gotta
to me.
ask 10-year-old CJ, who's actually
No, that's Mambo's Mambo. 'cause
actually
the other
still
one
known
is-
as Charles back then.
The other one is Wart's fucking song. Ba, 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 ba.
okay.
Sorry,
Link's
we interrupted
Awakening
you.
Geeks. Next.
All right.
No, that's fine.
Oh, that wasn't number 1. That was just
No,
me?
that was our number 3. Our number 2, all 6 of us put in our top 6. All of us
Okay.
put it in our
I
top.
mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and that is the Wind Waker HD.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow, that's the first one that I actually voted lower than what it got.
Yeah.
Wow.
I put that at 3, but
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I had it at 6, which is apparently the lowest of any
Yeah,
of us.
what's wrong with you?
But I love that the top 6 was just so hard for me. I love
Yeah.
Wind Waker. Like the top 6 is all very, very close.
Yeah.
It's not like
So I played a little bit of it when I was a kid when it like came out, and then Ian scratched my GameCube CD. It's cool, I'm not bitter. And then I hadn't played it again until we did our Let's Play, and I just remember that one being a lot of fun.
yeah.
It
I
didn't
also
lose.
That was before we hated each other.
Oh, you know what though? You know what I voted on, and I think you might have missed
That was
it.
the first video you did with us.
yeah,
was
it
Wind
was.
Waker.
I also I was gonna say
Sorry, I didn't want to.
I have
Shit.
Ocarina of Time and Ocarina of Time 3D as like in the same spot, so Wind Waker is really like number 5 for me. It's just like
I think I actually voted on Wind Waker,
Oh, the original, not the HD
which we
one.
did not play.
Oh,
so
well,
Yeah.
Would you say there's a substantial difference?
I actually didn't have a problem with the original. I mean, granted,
Oh, yeah, no,
HD makes it way better, but the other game, I didn't need a faster boat.
I thought it helped a little bit.
I mean,
It didn't seem like
it
it made a
did seem-
difference because the boat was still
it actually
the
did seem
only
like-
reason it wasn't probably number
But
one.
It did seem like it was actually almost too fast.
I
a little
enjoyed
bit.
the like.
Not by much, but
Again, this is
I mean,
this
there's
is
a lot
young
of
Charles
traveling, so
Haley
yeah.
instead of CJ, and so I know I didn't
Young
have a lot
Charles.
going with my life besides playing video games, so I had the time to sail the seas, and it felt a
That's-
lot
yeah.
more like a pirate open seas game where you're just
Yeah.
sailing. Occasionally you stop at like just an outpost that's in the middle
yeah,
of water,
just a little island.
and you just get
whatever.
a treasure chest that probably just has a joy pendant in it.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
It was
That
just
is
I had
like
fun.
a discovery thing.
I
like-
spent so much time just playing that game and not progressing.
That's
And
true.
I enjoyed it.
I can remember a time in my life where I would have been like, "Wow, it's cool to explore," rather
Yeah.
than like,
The Let's Play format is not conducive
That's
for
true.
Wind
'Cause
Waker
you
HD at all. We had to kind of, that's why we had to clarify, we're doing this as objectively as we can, because
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
playthrough of Wind Waker HD was fine. Our playthrough, we probably wouldn't have had it as number 2, but the game itself and our memories of the original Wind Waker are definitely what are helping keep that nice and
Yeah.
high.
Well-
I would say this, Crackdown, and Final Fantasy Tactics are the 3 games that I spent the most time just playing
You mean
and
Final Fantasy
enjoying,
VI?
and just.
Yeah, he
I didn't
does.
play Final Fantasy VI until college.
Wrong. Anyway,
Um,
so I think
so-
maybe that's been our problem is that the Zelda games are often about taking your time and meandering a little and being okay with
Yeah, I mean,
that.
a lot of video games are.
Exploration.
And yeah, and especially for me, I know that I'm the one who's like, come on, but like
I also
it's just
No.
doing it in front of an audience
That's
makes me
not-
feel like I'm wasting their time if the game isn't like large, like
yeah, no,
progressing
they're
a lot.
wasting their own time. They're willing to watch us.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Fair point.
What I find really interesting about Wind Waker 2 is at the time the art direction and like design of that game was shit on by
I know.
everyone.
Yeah.
I
Zelda.
loved it even initially, and I think that it holds up really, really well.
Absolutely. Almost arguably better now than before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do have to get issue 187 of Nintendo Power where I got my Wind Waker comment.
Oh, that's right. We
In-
put it in the
in the
episode
game.
when you mentioned
Oh,
it.
really?
too.
You did?
Yeah, it's in
Oh
there.
yeah, you found it. Oh yeah,
I
we'll
did.
load
It took a long fucking time to find that,
Damn.
but it's there.
I'm
if you
pretty
go
sure
back
it's
to
issue
Wind Waker.
187. I like the Tingle Tuner idea better than what was in the HD one, the bottle.
Yeah,
that you
the
put out
bottles
to
were
sea.
totally
It was
useless.
cute, but the Tingle Tuner,
It was
if
just-
you
it was just
actually
a
use it
Miiverse
with a
thing.
Game Boy Advance, it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It lets a second player kind of like look at this top-down version of the dungeon map and drop bombs and kind of help you out.
Yeah. Find secret treasures, extra heart pieces
yeah.
were found that way and stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree on that. The bottles were pretty fucking pointless in the version that we got
But
to
I
play.
think we all agree that the HD version didn't hurt the game.
No,
in
it
any
didn't
way.
Not
hurt
at
it.
all. If anything, I would say that it probably did improve on it just had little tiny tweaks that were the ability to change your items without pausing the game and doing it, like quick changes, and they did this with A Link Between Worlds, which is a great
Yeah.
thing for it too.
Well, that's just
Was
the
awesome.
benefit of the touchscreen.
Yeah, I wish that
I
I wish Ocarina and Majora 3D did that in any capacity at all, because
Yeah, and there's
Ocarina of
no
Time
reason
does
for
that?
them not to have done that, really.
no quick changes.
Yeah.
Oh no, you
Why
can
not
just,
do
you
that?
can just have 5 items instead of 3.
Yeah, you have more items.
So
but
basically, as long as you just pick the right 5 items, you never need to switch them.
More
One
or
last thing
less.
about Wind Waker is just that I loved the art direction, and
Mm-hmm.
there were pieces of the art direction that were kind of. It wasn't all cartoony. It was also like really epic and dark at times,
just
like those little
look- yeah.
balls with like the swirling thing inside
Just
of
look
it.
at Ganondorf.
And like exactly, and like the
epic,
smoke effects were
epic
awesome.
twin katana wielding samurai
Oh, yeah.
Ganondorf
He
was amazing.
He is my favorite.
Or
Wind
Shogun
Waker
Ganondorf, I
Ganondorf
don't
is
know
my
which one.
favorite Ganondorf.
Because he has a little
Yeah.
bit of layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has some
Yeah.
layers.
The only Ganondorf to really actually have more characterization.
gods
abandoned you.
You
Yeah,
actually
also-
have sympathy.
Yeah. Which is weird because Twilight Princess Ganondorf should have the same exact real backstory and drive, but he's just such a flat character, and it's like how I feel like they dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah. And the
Wind Waker.
Well, no, Wind Waker Ganondorf has been stuck in the Sacred Realm, right?
No, he's a statue.
No, before.
Oh,
the Wind Waker.
Yes, he was
stuck in the Sacred Realm.
He was stuck there, and then he escaped.
So he has a lot of time to
somehow.
just contemplate on his life. Twilight Princess's Ganondorf
he immediately gets
is
executed.
just murdered.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's a little bit angry.
So he's out for revenge.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
The parrying was cool, and the music reacting to your hits was just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
That led the way to stuff like the live orchestras for like Mario Galaxy and stuff.
Yeah.
They started experimenting more with music, starting with Wind Waker, and you can really see that Nintendo puts a lot more effort into how they do their music these days. They almost did for for Skyward Sword it is live. I think it's orchestrated. But they were going to have it be reactive in a similar way, but they were running out of time, and they wound up cutting it.
They were definitely
so
running
many
out of time
great details in that game, and just fun.
Yeah,
fun,
just so much fun.
That's a good point.
Swinging
just,
around,
it's worth saying.
Enjoyable to just play
and like the characters,
Link
and
and
facial
everything.
expressions, and like the ocean thing works for me.
Yeah.
And
you
can get action figures of every character and enemy.
I
in
did
the
that
game.
when I was a kid. I didn't get all of them, but I fucking busted ass to get as many of those.
I've never even touched that part of the game, but I will one day.
There are a couple you only have like one chance to do.
Well, you have to beat the game in order to even start.
Yeah, so you have to do New Game Plus to even get there.
Yeah.
And
usually when I beat the game, I'm like, all right, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'll do the action figure thing later, and then I play like 5 other games and forget about it.
The only negative that I can think of at all for the game is just that there are too few dungeons, I feel like. There were I think 6 dungeons in total.
Yeah.
In the entire game. There's the 4 like temples, there's the tower, and then there's
the Forsaken Fortress kind of counts.
There's that old
Forsaken Fortress.
old rumor that when you went down to Hyrule, you were supposed to be able to explore Hyrule and go to the old fire temple and the old water temple, and then they would have had temples for every element. Right?
Yeah.
And
it would have been neat.
Can you imagine? Oh shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Well,
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think to a point,
no,
like
it didn't need it.
It didn't need it exactly. Like
it
was
need
the
it.
right. It felt right.
I would have liked
and the end game felt long.
More.
I think I wish I had taken away a little bit of that like end game surfing around trying to find the Triforce and let you do another temple. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah,
but it doesn't need any more than is there.
I mean, it could have been worse. The original, like that was one of the bigger complaints was that how do you do the Triforce chunks, shards, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
In the original was literally you had to go do stuff, get a map, then go find the map spot, then dig for it or drop the claw. But I think they only do that like twice in this out of the 7.
It was a few times.
But that also got you to exploring all the islands more.
It's true. That is true.
Getting more stuff.
That is true.
Yeah. Whereas with the new version, it's so streamlined that you can play the whole game and like completely ignore like the top right hand corner of the map.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right.
Wind Waker.
Wind Waker, number 2.
And the number 1 best Zelda game of all time that we played
is Link's Awakening.
Is almost unanimously A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
4
was it 5?
4 of the 6 of us voted it number 1.
Yeah.
I forget where Dustin.
Whenever I download an emulator, it's always
of course
the first
it was
game.
Dustin.
No, not Dustin. Dustin voted number 1 also. Ian voted at number 4.
Ian voted at number 4.
Ian, what the fuck?
What was Ian's number 1?
His was, I think,
Didn't
Wind Waker.
Link's crossbow training.
His was Wind Waker.
His was Wind Waker. Mine was
a respectable
Link's
number
Awakening.
1.
Yeah.
I put Link to the Past at 5.
Yeah, you were the lowest on
under
Link to the
Majora,
Past.
Wind Waker, and the original.
Yeah, there was like almost all of the main console ones at one point. I was just sitting there going, how do I even start to break this down? But A Link to the Past is just gigantic. There are 12 dungeons, which none of the other games have even come close to touching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tons of weapons.
And they're all pretty good.
Tons of story. The story was continuous, and it felt like it was going somewhere.
And there's so many subplots, like an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H plot.
It's not, hey,
like
you
the lumberjack guy.
What I find great about
the flute kid.
It felt like a real world with things happening.
There were consequences for your actions.
Yeah.
Like old granny on the porch.
Oh. I do like that. So at the beginning of the
audience
game,
doesn't even know what we're talking about.
It's like, oh, hey, you got to go help the princess. And you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to go on my long quest to save it. It's like, no, 12 minutes later, you've saved the princess. And you're just like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, go do this other thing. And like, oh, all right, cool. I'm doing more stuff now.
There's so much more to do than just save the princess.
I like that they kind of make it almost a nothing thing right at the beginning. Like, oh, you saved the princess. Now go do more heroic things.
Yeah.
And it's only like 3 hours later where the game goes, oh, she's gotten captured again. And now you're like, oh, now I got to go save the princess.
And now you have to rescue the princess and 7 other maidens.
Plus, she's in another castle.
Like,
it's the only Zelda game that I can think of where you get to be a bunny.
That's huge selling.
Yeah. Including in the manga, adaptation.
Majora's Mask. Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, that's true. The bunny hood.
You get to be a bunny.
Whoops. Depends.
You're a horrible Donnie Darko creature.
It depends on what it takes. It depends on what you think it takes to be a bunny, man.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
As long as you like.
Now you know what
there
we're
are
into.
many trans bunnies out there.
That's wow.
I consider myself a bunny. Yes.
Anyway, the game was dark, but not like depressingly dark. Like it did dark without going as far as Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess.
It had a good balance of like dark and light.
Hey, not to be heavy-handed with it, but they had a pretty serious balance of dark and light.
Yeah.
Later in there.
Maybe I should have put it over Majora's Mask, but I still wouldn't put it over Wind Waker, the original, or Link's Awakening.
Okay.
I mean, at the very beginning, we said this was purely opinion. You know,
Oh, yeah.
It's hard
and
too.
I'm changing my opinion.
I'd say
All right.
it's one of the only games that in full inspired another entire game. Like the original and A Link to the Past, I think, are the only two.
Well, the original did inspire the Oracle's games.
Exactly. The original inspired Oracle of Seasons, and A Link to the Past inspired A Link Between Worlds. I don't think that there are any others that directly influenced another
Ocarina,
game.
Majora's Mask, I guess.
No, that's a sequel.
Influence.
That's not like I'm talking like A Link to the Past. They
It's a
took the
weird metric.
world and all the bosses inside of it and basically crafted another game out of those
Ocarina
pieces.
inspired Twilight, I guess.
I
would
guess.
say.
Yeah,
This is a weird thing
It's a
to-
looser thing, but the
Anyway.
idea being, A Link to the Past was so powerful and has stayed that powerful that after 20 years they went,
Yeah.
let's do another one.
I think
Twilight
that's the
Princess
biggest thing, is
inspired
that-
crossbow taining.
That's
Crossbow
Sure.
taining.
All right.
That's the real lesson of today, folks.
Bro training.
I think the bosses kicked ass.
Bosses were cool. The music was good.
Music's great.
The
items.
graphics
Yeah.
were perfect. Like I have
Yeah.
no complaints about the visuals,
Except
even though
his pink
it's
hair.
so early. It's like the second game for the Super Nintendo.
How many
It
versions
was
of
real early.
how many versions of Argus are in that game? Also,
Of what?
Argus.
We counted 3 or 4.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 Arguses in
Yeah,
Link to the
our
Past
guy.
alone.
Lots of great collectibles and upgrades, like all sorts of
Yeah.
little hidden, like
Yeah.
the golden sword.
When you get the
and,
golden
like,
sword, you
all
feel like
sorts
such a
of
boss.
Jesus,
stuff.
yeah. The golden sword is
all the medallions that you don't need.
the golden sword.
the
Incidentally,
staff of invincibility
is
you
the
don't need.
strongest sword in the entire franchise.
Cool.
Someone did some math on it and was like equalizing, like, all right, here's how much damage this does to this. Here's how long it takes to kill that. The golden sword, the level 4 sword in A Link to the Past, is the strongest in every game.
I believe it.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Beats
yeah.
out Link Between Worlds' strongest sword.
It does. I think the gilded sword is the next strongest one.
That would make sense.
After that,
I remember
from Majora's
being-
Mask.
What about the Great Fairy Sword?
I guess that's tied with the gilded sword, isn't it?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I remember being like, I don't know, maybe in 7th grade, and Ian, I would play this game every year, and Ian was just like, we were in his room because he had the Super Nintendo at the time.
Was it like 2?
Yeah, he was fucking young. And he's like sitting down, and then like CJ comes up, and we just like sit there and play Link to the Past for an afternoon in Ian's room.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? You probably don't know if you remember that. But
No, I remember that. I named
you
him
named him
God.
Yeah, you do remember that. Awesome.
That came up when we were naming it.
And then I think
way back
Ian,
at the.
Yeah.
didn't Ian name it God when he did his hack?
I think so. Yeah.
That's
So
like a
that
whole thing
made
we've
me
done
really
since.
happy
Yeah.
because
Wow.
Ian beat the game in 5 minutes.
Well, he
using a
probably
glitch.
always just saw this elusive file called God on his.
Yeah,
it was like
it's
that
always
me and
gotta
John
be
had
God.
started. It was like, John, trust me, it's really funny because when we're gonna rescue Zelda, she's gonna say, "Oh, thank God you rescued me."
nice.
The big reason for me personally that I put it at number 1 is, so I played the games in a weird order. I played Ocarina of Link's Awakening first, Ocarina, and I didn't play Link to the Past for a long time. I ended up emulating it like in college at some point.
Yeah, I
that was
couldn't
the
get my-
first time I played that
I couldn't
game.
get my hands on it for a while.
And
Yeah.
even at that point, like way past it had been released, I just fell in love with it, and it was just such a great game. It felt great to play it, like you controlled the character, and like it felt tight, and just everything about that game. Like so, even so far, it being outdated, and I still.
Well, and I think that's something
it was
important.
Still an
I
amazing
think
game.
you could take that game and hand it to someone who's never played it today, and
Yeah.
they would still enjoy it. And that isn't as true for some of the others.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah.
they found some perfect formula with that one.
That was my like big objective reason. That was number 1. It didn't hold the nostalgia that some of the games did, but that game like
and the fucking
the-
Pegasus boots.
Yeah. the crafting of that game was superb, I thought.
I think I borrowed it from you the first time I played it, maybe. Because I remember I got a Super Nintendo at Funkoland when I used to be open, and I didn't get any games
now
for
known
it.
as GameStop.
And this was like 3 years into the Nintendo 64 lifespan that I got a Super Nintendo. And so I just borrowed all the like big name Super Nintendo games from either you or Alex probably, or Dustin. And played all the games that I hadn't played, like Star Fox, Super Mario World, Link to the Past.
Dustin and Jana
Super
gave me
Metroid.
Final Fantasy VI. Whoa!
Final Fantasy VI even, yeah, I got that from Alex, I think.
The A Link to the Past is the second Super Nintendo game I ever played. One of my aunts had Super Mario World and a pool, so I loved going there in the summer. And
two best
did
things.
Did you pretend the pool was Jolly Roger's Lagoon?
I hadn't played Mario 64 yet, so no. Is that the one in Mario 64, or is that one in the? Yeah. I don't think I'd played that one yet, so no.
Did you pretend that the pool was a water level in Super Mario?
Probably, almost certainly.
It's not as cool to say it that way. That's
it's true.
Take one step back.
It was the second game I'd ever played, and I'll never forget. This kid, Danny. I was friends with him growing up, or up until like 4th grade, and he had a Super Nintendo. He had A Link to the Past, and I went to go turn it on one day. Oh, you got a phone call. Oh, a FaceTime. Okay, cool. I went over to play it, and I went to turn it on, and it didn't turn on right away because Nintendo. That's just how it works. You have to turn it on 2 or 3 times sometimes. And he instantly was like, "You broke my game!" And like, I was like, "No, what? No, just hang on." And like, I was like, "Hang on, pull it out, put it back in, it's back." And I was like, "Chill the fuck out." But no, I fell in love with that game.
Yeah. I actually almost didn't play it because I had it in my head. So my uncle showed me Final Fantasy IV for the Super Nintendo. I was like, this looks stupid and boring, and I'm 6 and can barely read, or 4 and can barely read.
But then Final Fantasy VI came out, and you were like, oh my god, like I'm in mechs right at the beginning. Yeah. I feel all powerful. I'm Biggs and Wedge are my buddies.
Yeah,
they were Luke Skywalker's buddies, so you got to know that they're like mean shit.
A Link to the Past.
Yeah, that's definitely the best Zelda game.
Is part of the like holy triumvirate on the Super Nintendo, which is A Link to the Past, Final Fantasy VI, and Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
They are just the 3 games that make the Super Nintendo.
If I only could play 3 games for the rest of my life, it would be those 3.
The 3 of those alone make the Super Nintendo arguably the best console ever released.
I've never
let's do all the Chrono games and all the Xeno games.
I've never played Chrono Trigger.
And then
wow, we actually have to do Chrono Trigger.
Okay, so we're gonna
Neither of these 2 have played Chrono Trigger.
Oh, you never played it either?
No. So we'll do Trigger and Cross. And then we'll do Xeno, Gears, Saga, and Blade.
Sorry, we said we weren't going to do RPGs, but we can't not do this.
And then Pandora's Tower, we'll slide in there. Last Story.
This is the best birthday the
total
D-Pad's
upset.
ever had.
And Chrono Trigger is the #1 Zelda game.
And the good Final Fantasy games, which would be 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Oh my god.
6 through 10.
Don't sleep on 5.
And the #1 Zelda game
I guess
is
5. I haven't played 5. But
Dark Souls.
I've heard good things.
Wow, there's a lot of #1 Zelda games. Apparently,
I think this is a pretty good birthday gift for the D-pad right here. The new D-pad. I don't think we're forgetting anything, right?
We're doing the bottom 10, right? Or
we got everyone. We talked to Ian, but he didn't get back to us. I think that's we're not forgetting anybody, are we?
Ian.
Yeah, that's it. So we'll see you next time.
Hi there, everyone. I wanted to take a minute out of my busy birthday to show you one of my favorite Mario games I just discovered. Can't help but notice no one else is here today. That's fine.